Hello friends, welcome back. It's Big Dano Paints, and today I have a proper YouTube video for you where we're going to dive deep into the processes of building a crazy diorama. Let's start with the very first piece, the idea. As is often the case on my Twitch streams, my viewers and I were trawling over some Kickstarters and talking about ways that I could incorporate some of these models into a big crazy diorama. This Kickstarter is from Chimera Models, and it's called Tenebrae, The Fate of Asteria, and also Tenebrae, Nightmares of Ilia. And I came up with a concept combining these two Kickstarters and these 75mm models into one scene. So you may be asking, what do you do with that idea then, Dano? Well, the answer is simple. I draw a stupid little picture and try and get an idea of how I'll put those models together on the base. Here's my stupid little picture. The thing about something of this scale is that there'll always be things that you can't plan and prepare for. So rather than coming up with a very specific, clear, exact diagram, I like to just come up with a rough concept and then work from there.
If it looks like something's changed, you're right, it has. But let's continue with the video. Guess what takes a long time? Assembling 15 different individual figures, making sure that the gaps are filled, and then cleaning all the mold lines. And that is what this montage is about to demonstrate. It's montage time, baby. I have a friend who is a whiz with the 3D printer, and as I have already got enough hobbies as it is, I enlisted their help to 3D print a large number of little Bobby Dazzlers, as I like to call them, to be placed all across the diorama in all manner of areas. However, the key thing that we wanted was the church. So as I'm playing around with this church 3D print, I'll explain a little bit about what's happening in the story of this diorama. So there is a graveyard right next to the church, which is pretty common for churches back in the old times. And unfortunately, a necromancer and her cronies have summoned the hordes of undead that lie beneath the earth to assault this church and retrieve some holy relics. So the church was a really important part of the original concept, and you can see me planning how I'm exactly going to utilise these 3D print components that I got, which is from a specific church design that I'm cannibalising to create one that fits in with the space that I have designated for this diorama. Building up the framework of the base is a really important part of the process, as it were. And I like to sketch things out on the actual bit of wood that I've designated for the base before I start attaching things and cutting things. My process is not organised, it's chaos incarnate, and that's okay, as long as you've got some direction on where you're trying to go. So here I'm using blue XPS foam to build up the right-hand side of the diorama, which is going to be the graveyard along with a river. And at this point I'll talk about something that I think is really important in dioramas, is thinking about height. It's really important to have varying heights and depths to create visual interest. And with this particular piece, I want to create kind of like a triangle where we start at the church and then we head down to the right-hand side alongside the graveyard, and then we go back down to the left where we see the underground cavern, and sitting in there is a giant dragon with a necromancer atop of it. But you can see that I've got 3 specific levels to the diorama: the church level, the graveyard level, and then the underground cavern level. And so building up each of those areas is the first step in creating this monstrosity. When it comes to building up the texture of the XPS foam to make it look a little bit more realistic, I like to use a product called Sculpt It, although I think it's called Sculpt It in Australia, depends on where you are. And although this can be smoothed out quite well and it dries to a rock hard texture, I like to leave it clumpy because it emulates a rocky surface. So I'm building up Sculpt It or Sculpt It across the graveyard area to replicate the ground, and I smooth that out. And then I'm also using it in the underground cavern to replicate a rocky, cavernous area. We need stairs. We need stairs to go from the graveyard up to the church. Don't ask me how this works in real life. I'm not sure it's even possible, but I have a rule that I like to ascribe to when it comes to painting and creating, and that is called the rule of cool. It's far more important to do something that looks cool than is maybe specifically perfectly accurate to how real life works. Always, always follow the rule of cool. So we're building some stairs into nothingness up to the church or down to the graveyard, depending upon your perspective. And I'm using little paddle pop sticks to create that with some super glue, and then I'll attach alfoil to those sticks, and then I'll lay some Sculpt It over the top. Is it a perfect, clear, indestructible structure? Most definitely. It'll never break. I also added a texture underneath which is called Knead It. So we've got Knead It and we've got Sculpt It. We're going to have to come up with a new product soon called Big Deno It, because that's what we're doing with this diorama next. We're big denoing it. After the Sculpt It dries, it's time to add little details using gravel, rocks, and other accoutrements. Once we've completed adding all of the detail, it's time for a very exciting part of the process, and that is spraying it black. And it doesn't sound that exciting, but what you find is that all of those different coloured and textured elements all of a sudden come together as they're all a uniform colour, and it really helps you visualise what's happening and what it's going to look like a lot better. Now at this point, unfortunately, all of my hard work in building a fantastic video for all of you to watch has gone to waste because many months passed with this project left by the wayside. I moved house and lost my job and had a whole variety of other things happen that made continuing this project seem like a very large task. And at this point, I want to talk about how challenging these sorts of projects are and how important it is to just give yourself a little bit of grace, a little bit of acceptance. It's okay not to finish it. I know we see YouTubers and successful hobbyists complete these projects in a matter of hours. It's not that easy. In real life, it's hard, it's a laborious process, and adding in the complexity of recording a video will make it a lot longer. So I took some time off, hence this situation, which is when we started recording of Danse now. You can see just how long it's been. But we came back to it and we started painting. And I'm now going to cut together a few short snippets of me painting this project over the course of a few weeks in the following year until we get to the final result. So all of those streams of me painting a large number of the models for this diorama are available on my YouTube channel. You can go back and check those out if you want to watch the full process. This was a big project and it was really satisfying to have it come to a conclusion. So let's roll the tape and you can check out the finished result. And while that's happening, I'm going to read the little poem that I put together for the plaque that I added to the front of the piece. The bells toll low, a solemn hollow sound, as shadows stretch and gather on the ground. From dust and grave, the skeletal forms arise, with empty sockets where once were human eyes. A fiddle scrapes, a bone on string, it plays, a jig for all, through life's bewildered maze. No king nor pauper, no lady proud and fair, escapes the call, the chill that fills the air. The grinning host, with bony rhythmic tread, leads all the living to the silent dead, a levelling force, a truth both stark and plain, that all must join this grim eternal train. So dance we all, a brief and vibrant span, before we join the ultimate silent plan, the dance macabre, a warning in its sway, that none escape the reckoning of the final day. Big Tenno.